Have you ever felt that spine-chilling sensation when you realize something or someone might be watching you? Maybe it was just a persistent follower or a strange message from an unknown profile. But what if I told you that behind social networks, there are real stories that would make even the most skeptical question their safety? Cases that turned a simple photo-sharing app into a stage for stalking, intrusions, and frightening secrets. Real facts that many prefer to ignore, but reveal the darkest side of our online exposure. Make no mistake, terror doesn't reside only in movies or books. It's hidden in the corners of our digital routines, in the people we follow, in the messages we respond to without a second thought. It might sound exaggerated, but these stories prove that, with just one click, we can become targets of something greater, something uncontrollable. Can you imagine it? What if the next profile that starts following you hides intentions you'd never suspect? Get ready to discover 3 chilling real cases, where what began as an innocent notification ended in panic and despair. Each of these stories is a warning, an invitation for you to reflect on what you share, who you interact with, and how well you truly know the people in your online circle. Terror and reality intertwined here, and only the most cautious can escape the traps hidden in the virtual world. And now I ask, are you really safe? Or could it be that, as you read these words, someone is already paying too much attention to your movements? Have you ever stopped to think about the traps that might be hidden behind a simple message on social media? Imagine a young person, just like anyone else, casually scrolling until a notification catches their attention. The profile was perfect. Photos flawlessly adjusted, catchy captions, and a smile so charming it seemed impossible to resist. This is how the conversation began, one that would change his life forever. It was an attractive woman, at least in the virtual world. The exchange of messages flowed naturally, but small details began to seem wrong. Can you feel that doubt in your spine? Sometimes, instinct tries to scream louder than reason, but the young man ignored those signs. After all, who would suspect a connection that seemed so real? The critical moment came when they decided to meet. "Let's meet in a quiet place," she suggested, indicating a remote road far from curious eyes. The young man hesitated, but went. Upon arrival, everything felt too calm. The wind made the leaves dance subtly, and the darkness around seemed to swallow the remaining courage. Here, a silent pause could heighten the tension, leaving the reader waiting for the worst. A car was parked, its lights off. What happened next was pure terror. A hooded man appeared from behind the vehicle, clearly with unfriendly intentions. The young man managed to react quickly, ran to the car, and escaped just in time, but not without tasting the bitter danger. Days later, still shaken, he decided to investigate the profile that had turned his life into a nightmare. To his surprise, or horror, the profile had vanished. A quick search revealed that the account had been hacked, used as bait to attract unsuspecting victims. This incident left deep marks and an eternal warning. The anonymity of social media can be a perfect disguise for predators. Never underestimate the power of the information you share online. Now think, how many fake profiles have you encountered today? Want to know how to protect yourself? First, never accept invites from strangers without thoroughly investigating. Perfect profiles may just be a mask. Second, prefer to meet in public and busy places. Lastly, pay attention to your instinct. If something feels off, it probably is. These are real facts that no one tells you, but that could save your life. Now think, do you believe this only happens to others? Or can you imagine that, as you read this, someone is already targeting you? the echoes of this story don't stop here. It's just one of many that reveal the hidden dangers of our digital presence. And the worst part, predators don't settle for just one attack. There's always another target lurking, another account being manipulated. What if you were in his shoes? But terror doesn't just stay virtual. The next case proves it can invade your real life, crossing doors you thought were locked. Terror sometimes starts with something as simple as a comment on a photo. It was an ordinary day when a young woman, let's call her Clara, noticed an older man had begun interacting with nearly all her Instagram posts. At first, it was just harmless compliments. Lovely smile, or I loved this photo. But the frequency and intensity of his comments began to increase. He asked personal questions and even mentioned details she had never shared publicly. Have you ever wondered how much information might be visible to everyone on your profile? Worried, Clara decided to block him. It was a momentary relief, but little did she know this was just the beginning of the nightmare. A few days later, Clara started noticing something strange. A car with tinted windows seemed to be constantly near her house. At first, she thought it could be a coincidence. However, the feeling of being watched became inescapable. One night, when returning home, she saw the same car parked at the corner, engine off. Here, a silent pause could heighten the suspense. The distant sound of a car engine turning on or a step on the gravel. Clara ran inside and locked the door. The fear paralyzed her. The next morning, her sister found shoe prints on the dirt near Clara's bedroom window. The stalker was no longer on Instagram. He was here, in the real world. The most terrifying night of all came when Clara was alone with her younger sister. During the night, the dogs started barking incessantly, and footsteps echoed on the porch. Her phone buzzed with notifications, direct messages from an unknown profile, describing details of the house. When the two ran to lock all the windows, Clara heard the sound of glass breaking downstairs. Can you imagine the chill that ran down your spine at that moment? The police were called, but before they arrived, the sisters locked themselves in a closet. Seconds felt like hours. The intruder was caught inside the house, and to Clara's horror, it was the same man she had blocked weeks before. This case reveals one of the biggest dangers of the digital age: the illusory closeness we give to strangers on our social networks. Clara never imagined that a simple follower would turn into a real threat to her safety. That's why we must be meticulous about what we share. Think about your posts. Do they reveal your routine, your address, or even your weaknesses? It is crucial to adjust privacy settings and never ignore suspicious behavior. Unfortunately, not all stalkers are caught before causing more severe harm. Clara's story had a safe ending, but not everyone is that lucky. The next case takes this fear to an even darker level. What if someone already had secret photos of you? There's something disturbing about the idea of being watched without knowing, but few can imagine the horror of discovering that intimate, private images of their life were taken without permission. That's what happened to Mariana, a young woman who led an ordinary life until she received a message from a friend, alerting her about an Instagram profile that seemed straight out of a nightmare. The profile displayed photos of her, many of them clearly taken from a distance while she was at home. Can you feel the weight of this discovery? Some images showed Mariana in the living room, kitchen, and even in the backyard, capturing moments she thought were private. The sense of intrusion was so overwhelming that her breath became heavy and her adrenaline spiked. Immediately, Mariana reported the profile. The problem: The account owner seemed to have taken careful precautions. The posts came from anonymous devices, and the location of the administrator was impossible to track. The police were involved, but with so few concrete leads, the case seemed impossible to solve. And while the profile remained active, Mariana lived in a constant cycle of panic and paranoia. Every shadow near the window seemed like a warning that the voyeur was closer than she wanted to imagine. The sound of steps outside the house or a sudden knock could make the scene even more intense at this point. In search of answers, Mariana started to review her memories for clues. That's when she realized something terrifying. Months earlier, she had seen a strange man watching her house. At the time, she thought it was just a coincidence, but now it made sense. What if he had been spying for weeks, or even months? This line of thought led her to make a radical decision. She and her family decided to move, abandoning the house that had once been their refuge. Privacy doesn't exist anymore, she thought, as she packed her things. Mariana's case exposes one of the darkest sides of social media. How easily anyone can become a victim of something so invasive. A fake profile, a hidden camera, and suddenly, your entire life can be exposed. To protect herself, Mariana advises essential steps. Use heavy curtains, review the security of doors and windows, and, most importantly, be cautious when sharing information online. She now checks for hidden cameras whenever she enters a new space, a habit she believes everyone should adopt. Even after moving, Mariana still feels the psychological impact of this episode. She knows the voyeur may still be lurking, perhaps watching someone else now. And you, have you thought about the photos you take, the places you share them, and who might be watching? Her story ends here, but the questions it raises continue to echo. Could this same type of threat be closer than we imagine? But what if digital terror was just the beginning? Some stories go beyond what we can control. They're not limited to cameras or fake profiles. They become real when we look inside our own minds. Finish reading and tell me, how far can your imagination take you? Now that you know these stories, the question remains, are you really safe? Social media, which should connect us, also opens doors for those who want to exploit our vulnerabilities. And what are you doing to protect yourself? Ignoring the risks might seem comfortable, but the truth is, every online interaction could be an invitation for the unknown to invade your life. Real facts like these aren't just horror stories, they're reminders that danger is as real as the profiles we follow. Reflect on your actions. Do you know exactly who sees your posts? Have you reviewed your privacy settings? Avoiding situations like the ones we've described doesn't require paranoia, but attention. Adopt simple habits, like restricting who can access your information, avoiding exposing routines or locations in real time, and always staying alert for suspicious behaviors. Every step you take in the digital world leaves traces, and the challenge is ensuring those traces don't become guides for predators. And now, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you act or continue as if this could never happen to you? The stories we shared here prove that terror doesn't choose its victims. It just waits for those who leave the doors open, but you have the power to change that. Small actions can save lives, including your own. If you want to keep learning about these dangers and how to avoid them, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let's uncover the mysteries together and protect ourselves from the dangers many prefer to ignore. After all, being informed is the first step to being safe. And you, will you stay out or take control of your security?